Welcome to Motivate You, the Winner Circle here, your host, June Archer. Today, my guest is an entrepreneur, author, and so many more. I can't even begin to tell you the blessings that this young lady is going to acquire and the things that she's going to do. We're just talking off camera about the peak and valleys and summits. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to welcome you to the show, Miss Anna Nyakana. Anna, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, brother. Thank you so much, June. I'm excited to be here, connect with everybody tuning in on Motivate You. Let's give the people some motivation.
I am excited. I want to jump in and talk about the Niyah Zuri series and what you are doing with this book. You've been traveling all over. You have been on just about every news outlet, especially in New England. I want to talk about this series and why it's so important for you to talk about this young lady with the big hair to inspire so many young people and young people of color.
Thank you so much for that tee off. Niyah Zuri started really from the beginning. I grew up in Stamford, Connecticut in the housing projects. I went to a very low performing school. I was learning English immigrating from Berlin, Germany, and I was kind of passed along through the grades without actually being challenged, without actually being educated in a way where I understood my worth. I understood where I came from. And I could never find anyone on the cover that looked like me. So it discouraged me to even read or have any sort of love of literacy. So if you're not reading, how is it that you can build up your knowledge of self, right? So that was something that always sat with me. I was never able to let it go. And on top of that, no one ever came and checked on us, June. No one ever came to our school and told us that we were worth something, that we amounted to something of value, that we could attain anything we really set our minds to, not just because we dream it, but because we have a way of figuring out the goals and the steps that we need to put in place to make that dream a reality. And what a difference that would have made to me and everyone else that I went to school with. We would have had way more entrepreneurs, business owners, and just successful individuals in life. So Niyah Zuri really started from that seed and blossomed from there. Niyah Zuri is all about my fearless heroine, as you mentioned, with the big hair. And she is leading the way. Niyah Zuri, Pharaoh's Throne. She has her best friends, Miguel and Hugo Gonzalez, and they time travel through history and meet other children around their age to really help them overcome any sort of problem that they have. And what an amazing opportunity it is for children to be able to connect with a book. One, because they already see someone on the cover that looks like them, so they're pulled in, they're interested. And then two, as they're reading the content, they're learning about history, not just indoctrination and what maybe the curriculums want us to learn, but really empowering our youth. When you empower them, you unchain their minds and you fill them with this fire like we were talking about before we started recurring. And that fire just grows. It is something that will consume everything around them and really build them up to be successful individuals on their own paths.
Now, you migrated from Germany to the United States.
Yeah.
And you talk about being in the projects. For you, not being able to get those individuals who you can see yourselves in at school and having them in your environment, who did you turn to for inspiration and motivation?
June, that's part of the problem. There was no one to turn to. Like myself, many of the kids that I went to school with, our parents were working 2-3 jobs. We were watching ourselves after school, or our older siblings were watching ourselves. So because I may have not had anyone to look up to, that is why I am so persistently consistent with making sure that I stay in the schools, that my books are in the kids' hands, that it's in the curriculum, that it's in the lessons plans, that I'm going and really uplifting our youth, motivating them, empowering them to really remember their worth, which is limitless, because they have the potential to transform this world much better than what we're even doing now. So right now, what we're doing, you and I and everyone else tapped in, is laying that foundation, laying that groundwork. They are going to take it to a whole other level, but it's up to us to instill in them the fact that they have that potential in the first place.
Now, for you, you're doing the work. You're on the ground doing the work. You're in the schools. You're in the communities, media, social media, doing these amazing things. How important is it as we are going through a transformation and a reformation, not just in our nation, not just globally, in our schools, in our education system? How important is it for our young people to see positive images of women of color, people of color, but also being able to see people that look like them, that speak that language in books to inspire and motivate them to dream the impossible and the possible.
June, it is critical. It is so fundamental. I actually just wrote a write-up for book room reviews, and it was all about the importance of diversity in the classroom. When a child can identify with someone in a piece of literature or in a book, already they are understanding that self-love. They feel that importance of knowing myself, my hue, my melanin is important enough that this character looks like me. They sound like me. I'm learning about history that I'm not being taught normally. So in the first book, Niyah Zuri and the Pharaoh's Throne, the trio, they go back to ancient Egypt. And it was so important for me to bring it back to Africa first, especially for children of color in this country. They do not understand the rich empires and kingdoms that they come from. We are beyond the history of plantations and concrete foundations. Okay,
Correct.
we descend from emperors, we descend from empresses, and really we are the first astrologers, the first astronomers, the first doctors, scientists, the first philosophers and poets, musicians, dancers, and everything in between. Do you understand how that can really change a child's course if they know that versus civil rights and slavery? That is what Black History Month is all about. Those are the 28 days that a child of color gets any sort of focus, and then they move on from the curriculum. That is a problem. It's time to shake it up. We should not be teaching the same curriculum from 50 years ago, from 20 years ago. There are so many amazing individuals of color that are doing the work, that are really transforming things now, that are at the peak in their expertise and their careers, or really just leading the way with change. Why aren't we learning about this now? And at the same time, why aren't we allowing children a way to visually tie their history back beyond 400 years? That's an issue for me.
It's a super issue.
It's a super issue for me. You have to have that confidence of self. You have to have that knowledge of self. Not all parents and households know this themselves. So, but at the same time, we can't complain about it. What can we do? Change the narrative. So once again, it was important for me to bring it back to Africa first, so children see, whoa, Egypt is not in the Middle East or far off. No, it is in Africa. Okay. Prince Tut became a pharaoh at 8 years old. 9 years old of an entire kingdom. So what does that mean? You have that royal mentality. You have that royal quality. Okay, so understand that you are boundless. Understand that you come from a long history of monarchies and royalties and individuals that really birthed and created this world for you now. So don't feel that you are lower than. Understand that you are the standard. So it's important that we bring the children up and bring their frequency up to that standard. And once they're in that mentality, oh, June, the way that they light up after I fire them up in a room, you can't tell them anything wrong. You can't tell them that they can't accomplish that dream or that goal or start a business or do that initiative or project in their community. They are focused. So it's up to us to continue that work day in and day out in our communities first, whether you're someone that is an educator, whether you're someone that's a motivational speaker or an author. Everyone has a voice. You can do anything as a parent or just someone who's present. Like I said, if a thought occurs to you that there's a need, especially when it comes to a child, fulfill the need. Don't turn a blind eye. We need you. We need you to use that voice, and we need you to apply that pressure and create that action for them.
No, I love that, because one of the things I'm very concerned with is people not understanding the story. And there's so many gaps in the story. We go from slavery to civil rights to, having the opportunity to sit in the front of a bus, to Martin Luther King, to you have a Black president. There's so many gaps.
To our knees on our neck. So
to our knee on it.
Yes,
right?
exactly.
So somewhat of a disparity, somewhat of a contradiction. And I feel like if they don't get the story correct, they can't feel great about themselves. We don't know who we are. You migrated from Germany. How important is it? Or I'll ask you this. How is the history taught in Germany as it relates to the history taught in America for those Black Americans looking to find out a purpose and a sense of self?
Well, I personally didn't go through the education system in Berlin because I came here at 6 years old. My brothers were older than me, so they have a little bit more experience. But I will tell you, from the world view of just also traveling and keeping in touch with my family and visiting back and forth overseas, whether if it's in Berlin, whether if it's back in Uganda, my father's homeland, my homeland. So shout out to all my Banyankoli Ankoli. And at the same time, there is a broader understanding. Every other country really globally understands the history of Africa, understands the history of those Africans now in the diaspora, and really understands the history of African Americans in Africa better than we do, to the point where they're wondering, why aren't you coming back home? We need you here. Stop fighting for a country that isn't for you. This land was not meant for you. Come back to us. And really, history is taught more well-rounded. So you really see all aspects of it. It's not so much nationality, it's more culture. And I believe really in Germany, even in Moldova, even in Spain and Britain, and many other countries, especially in Africa, the history is taught deeper because that sever hasn't been made. That disconnection, that lack of knowledge of self that was made here systematically so that we would be a lost people in this country. Because God forbid we know our knowledge. God forbid we know our language. God forbid we know our tribe and where we hail from. That type of empowerment, the power that comes from that. Well, during civil rights, we wouldn't have been asking to just have equal. We would have been asking to have our own. And that's, I think, where we went wrong.
No, that is a beautiful point. And I feel like we have to, moving forward, persons such as yourself, myself, and so many of the people that we include in our village, we're doing the work, but we need people to embrace it. And we need to really get kids, get adults who are lost, who are not woke, and get them on board to say, listen, let's do better. Because when you know better, you do better.
Do better, yes.
So we have to do that. For you, I want to talk about the entrepreneurial piece. You're an entrepreneur. You have Niyah Zuri Studios. What inspired you to create Niyah Zuri Studios? You're a creative. You do a lot of things in terms of social media, marketing, branding. I want to talk about that.
Yes, Niyah Zuri, thank you so much. So Niyah Zuri Studios is really the flagship for everything to come beyond. And it is really where I create all of my digital media. So all of my video editing, photography, content creation, graphic design, website design, any sort of audio editing, everything that you see, whether it's on my website or on my social media, that's all in-house. And yes, I'm a one-woman team. I delegate if I need to or freelance when I need to, but for the most part, it's myself. I love being creative. I love challenging myself to really be able to express myself. And I'm very excited because Niyah Zuri Studios is now going to expand to be that flagship for the Adventures with Niyah Zuri, which is the cartoon series that I'm working on right now. Working on the teaser, which I will be pitching to networks that will be nameless at the moment. But definitely keep a lookout for that. And really, Niyah Zuri Studios, Niyah Zuri Books, which is my publishing company, the Niyah Zuri movement, the fundamental truths of Niyah Zuri. So much Niyah Zuri, like, well, Niyah Zuri, isn't that just the little girl? No. Yes, she's the main character, but Niyah Zuri really is more than just a character. It is a way of thinking. It is a way of life that I want to instill in the youth and everyone around it that comes into contact with it. It means beautiful purpose in Swahili. And I did that on purpose to really be able to guide people to find whatever it is that their passion is and be purposeful. Understand that this life, you are meant to live optimally. You're not meant to be struggling. You're not meant to be depressed. You're not meant to be lacking thereof. You are meant to live a glorified and full life. But if you don't feel that way, if you feel like you've already been born into a setback, then you stay in that setback mentality. I'm here to tell you, it's not time to set back. It's time to spring forward and to elevate into your full potential.
Anna, what motivates you? What motivates you?
So much motivates me, June. My children motivate me. And really, my purpose, my passion, everything that I'm speaking of now motivates me. I really mean it when I say that I cannot let that younger version of me down. It was so easy for me to have been able to fall into a system and to fall into a trap, and my life have gone a different path. I somehow feel that I have been given this purpose, that my ancestors really blessed me to understand that there's something higher that I'm supposed to be doing with my life. And that helped guide me during my adolescence, and then finally onto my path that I'm here today. I will not let the children down. I won't let the youth down. I won't let the Niyah Zuri tribe, shout out to the tribe. I won't let them down because I understand that everything that we do now will leave a lasting impression on these minds of the youth. And everything that we're encountering today, everything that you see in the news, everything that we're battling as people of color, a lot of this could be removed if only we strike at the minds of the youth. It's hard to recondition a mind 30, 40, 50 years old. But a child who knows no malice, who knows no prejudice or stereotype, that sees the world in full color before the world transforms it to think it only black and white, well, that's what keeps me up at night, no nights off. That's what keeps me burning during the day, no days off, because I know I can't let that younger version of me down, and any other child who is like me or that feels that they are less than of, feels that they don't have that worth, or maybe is a child that knows no difference. They have not even come into contact with a person of color, so they're just going to allow the world to fill in the blanks for them. No, I don't know about you, but I won't allow anyone to fill the blanks in my narrative, in my story. And we should make sure that we are building up our youth to fill in their own blanks to their high standards.
Recently, you were honored as the 100 women of color at the 100 Women of Color Gala and Awards. You were also valedictorian. I want to ask you, how was that experience? And what did you walk away with from that event?
June, that was such an incredible moment for me. Thank you again to you and everyone at 1128 Entertainment. I really felt that the entire state and the entire region was telling me that thank you. Thank you for believing in our kids and going as hard as you do. Now go off, set forth into the world and continue the work. I felt that everything that I do behind the scenes that people don't normally say, because we don't post everything on social media, right? And we don't really,
Right.
when you are committed to a mission higher than yourself, you don't really, or you shouldn't really be bragging about it. It shouldn't be something that you're constantly throwing in people's faces because you're focused on the work. You're not focused on the spotlight, right? At least hopefully if you have the right intention. So because of that, really the gala was such a transformational moment for me. I really felt that encouragement from my state and from the region of saying, we see the work you've done. Our children, our students, our schools, you did it here first. I'm just so thankful to everyone. I'm thankful to my tribe for rocking with me. This hasn't been an overnight success. This has been 5 years in the making. The momentum has just been building and building. Like we've talked about those peaks and those valleys. I have reached a summit and I'm going to continue the climb, and I'll be pulling and elevating everyone along with me, because I really do mean when I say when one of us win, we all win. And it's important that we have that mentality of also lifting others up in our circle, because there's definitely more than enough room at that table, and we should be knowledge sharing. We should be wanting to see one another win. We should want to be building up our communities, investing in our own, keeping that dollar circulating in our own communities first, and really having that mentality of building up our empire. If we're going to be here, we need to be here. We need to own. We need to be owners. We need to be intellectual property owners, business owners. We need to own our own. We know how to protect our own, and we need to know how to continue to elevate and inspire our own. So the gala was just it was a really incredible moment. A lot of things came full circle. And I actually had to just kind of go off the grid for a couple of days afterwards to really process what that meant, because it was a lot of years of work in the making to get to that.
Now, that event, 100 Women of Color, for those who are tuning in and watching who have no idea, it honors women of color throughout the state of Connecticut and Western Massachusetts. Women are the backbone of our families and our communities. Women of color specifically have been carrying the torch, the burden, the strength of our families for ages. For you, when we look at the George Floyd situation and he calls out his mom, who had passed on, how did you feel in that moment as a woman of color? I can't ask you as a mom, but as a woman of color, how did you feel in that moment for him and for his mom?
So I can't separate the fact that I'm a woman of color and a mother. I was heartbroken. As a woman of color and as a mother. We should not be bearing our children, although his mother had already passed. You don't birth a child into this world for them to not have the opportunity to reach their full potential, for them to reach their own personal summit, whatever it might be. I felt that as a people, we have failed. We have failed. And this was once again, a huge wake-up call not only to us in the Black community, but also to our allies that have been there linking up with us arm to arm, right? Really understanding and kind of seeing things more, because it's hard to hide the facts now with a camera phone. These are issues that we have been dealing with even before the civil rights movement. This just shows that things have been swept under the rug. Things have been swept under there, but there's still a lump and we're tripping over it. Now the rug has been removed and you see everything that's been buried there for years. There's been a lot of cradling and singing to people to think, oh, hush, this is not an issue anymore. We dealt with this in the 60s. We dealt with this in the 70s and the 80s. It's not an issue anymore. The issue hasn't gone away. We have failed. We need to do better. And I feel that people are awoke. They have awakened to that fact, both in our own communities, even abroad. We had people that were protesting in France, that were protesting in Japan, that were protesting in the UK. This has been a global wake-up call. That's why it was so important for me to also really lend my voice, especially when I was protesting back on June 7th. That was the day that all 50 states in the US and like so many countries around the world banded together and created the largest civil rights movement. So this is more of a global wake-up call as well. So now is the time for us to make sure that we're no longer failing. As a mother, that clip, and unfortunately I did watch it, because sometimes you need to see things clearly in your face to really lock into it and remember it. And it's something that I'll never forget for the rest of my life. They murdered him. They murdered him in cold blood, and they watched him do it. And a lot of people passed by and watched it happen as well. We have a responsibility. And even recently with the settlement case for Breonna Taylor, once again, that's a whole different level about Black women in America, because we are also the most abused and neglected individuals in this country. I'm not settling for the settlement. There needs to be real justice. And I think we need to continue to hold that bar high. We need to continue to change the standard. We need to continue to hold those that we put into office, into certain levels of power, accountable. Use your voice, use your power, make sure you vote. Make sure you understand that we can make a change, but we have to continue the work. We need to continue to be unified and not separated and have this dissemination. And don't allow these individuals with hatred in their heart to once again devalue you and what you can bring to this world. Continue the work, continue the fire, continue the progression in everything that you're doing. That's how we make sure that George's life, Breonna's life, Ahmaud Arbery, everyone's life that has been taken before, that it wasn't in vain. Otherwise, what is the point, June? If we're not progressing as a people, we are going to continue to fail ourselves. I don't know about you, but I don't like to fail. I don't like to fail.
Failing is not an option. It's
No.
it's an opportunity to learn, but it's not an option.
Absolutely. So as you said,
we
know better, we do better. So you may not be an author, you may not be a motivational speaker, but if you have a voice, use it and understand how you can create that progression, even if it's a conversation in your own household or with a neighbor. Continue to use your voice, and let's continue to talk and then implement action to make some lasting change.
You have found a way to navigate a lot of everything that has been going on. I appreciate you sharing your stories. Who has motivated you throughout this course of time? Or I'll ask this, what is the best piece of advice that you were given that you could share with someone who can't find a way out? They're looking for the light at the end of the tunnel. They feel like doors have been closed. They are getting nothing but a plethora of no's, and they're looking for a yes. What is the best piece of advice that you've been given that you lean on to get you through those tough times and those tough days and those trying moments?
Oh, you hit a really, really strong trigger there for me, because I got so many no's when I started on this journey, to the point where it was discouraging and made me almost slightly second guess myself and my mission. I knew that this book was valuable. I knew the mission. I knew the potential beyond the book, but I was getting so many no's. And I had to once again remind myself of that seed that blossomed, and really that fire that I ended up getting through my childhood and at my adolescence, to really know that I wanted to do more and I wanted to transform the youth and transform the world. So as those no's started coming through, I decided I'm going to make my own yes. And something that a mantra really that I came up with was that not every door is locked. Push. Okay. So that means whenever you feel like you're getting those no's, that there are obstacles in your path, that there are all these challenges that are coming that are trying to stop you from doing and fulfilling your purpose, understand that those obstacles are opportunities. Understand that those challenges are just chances for you to succeed. You have to also get out of your own way and understand that those no's from others don't matter. Are you giving yourself a yes? If you're giving yourself a yes, then you need to push forward. You need to push. That door is not always locked. And 9 times out of 10, when it opens, be ready to push through and be ready now to continue that work. Some people get shocked when that door opens. No, now it's time. You've been waiting for this moment. You can't back down. You've got to execute. Now it's time to shine that light that you've been building and working on. Really show yourself, show your passion, show your purpose. Let the rest of the world see what you've been doing. So that's what I'll leave with everyone, as far as those that maybe feel like they are really struggling against finding themselves, or really struggling against things that are coming in their way and falling in their paths to their own destiny. Listen, everyone has a right to their own destiny. Don't allow the world to give you no's. You take those no's, you make sure you're giving yourself a yes first. Everyone else, well, they'll jump on your passion once they see it shining.
Amazing. Amazing. That was a word. That was amazing. Music is a soundtrack to our lives.
Yes.
What is a song or artist that best represents your journey up to this point as you're reaching this place where, we talked about it. This is not the peak.
I've
right?
reached the summit. Yeah.
You just reach a summit. But what is a soundtrack to your life that inspires you to go get it, to keep looking forward, not looking back, and keeps you motivated and inspired to continue to dream the impossible and the possible all at the same time?
There's an amazing song by Nina Simone. I actually sent it to someone really dear to me this morning. And I think you know the one that I mean. Do you know the one that I mean?
She has so many amazing songs. So I'm a Nina Simone fan. So
well, you know what? I'll give you an exclusive, because I've never done this on an interview.
Okay.
Birds flying high, you know how I feel. Sun in the sky, you know how I feel. Breeze drifting on by, you know how I feel. It's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new life for me, yeah. And I'm feeling good.
Yes.
Let's
It's
spread
Nina
that.
Simone. It's Nina Simone. You really can't go wrong with Nina Simone.
Can't go wrong with Nina Simone. Can't go wrong.
You come from Germany. Father's Ugandan. Can you, I'm going to challenge you right now, and it might not even be a challenge. Can you give us a quick word or a word of inspiration in Germany or in Ugandan right now?
Okay, so Uganda has like 277 different tribes and dialects, Nyankoli. And my German is gone, but I do speak fluent Russian. So I will say this to you. Сегодня. Это твоя жизнь. Which means today, this is your life forward. Now you know better, so do better. Starting today, the time is now. Don't sleep away the rest of this 2020 quarantine. If you're not doing it now in 2020, what makes you think you'll do it in 2021 when things are easier? This is shaping you. This is sharpening you. So сегодня это твоя жизнь. Today, this is your life, starting now.
Where can they find you? Where can they like you? How can they follow what you're doing? Please share that.
Yes. So you can follow me on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook at Niyah Zuri. It's down here in the label right here. Also keep up with me on my website, www.nyakana.com. You can order the book, the ebook, parents, teachers. I have tons of free downloadable resources for you. Everything from story mapping to crossword puzzles, coloring pages, everything that you will need also right now during virtual learning. So keep up with me. And once again, thank you, June. Thank you to everyone at Motivate You, to your team, and also Got to do it again. Shout out to the Niyah Zuri tribe. Shout out to the tribe. Peace and love to all of you.
Ladies and gentlemen, honor Nyakana, Niyah Zuri books. Please like her, follow her. The movement is going on. You want your children to be a part of it. A woman of color doing some amazing things. And as Nina Simone says, now is the time.
It's a new time.
If not today, when? If not now, when?
And if
If
not
not
me,
you, who?
ooh.
It's Anna Nyakana, June Archer here for Motivate You, the Winner's Circle. Thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure you love someone. Tell someone that you love them. A random act of kindness goes a long way. It comes back 100-fold. You could be a blessing to somebody else, but don't block your blessings, because those blessings can be yours as well. Thank you so much for tuning in. Y'all be safe. We'll talk to you soon. Peace.